This former colliery site, still signposted on bus indicators as Woolley Colliery, sits astride both Barnsley and Wakefield municipal councils. The total area covered by the spore heap is enormous, and it took several visits to completely cover the site from end to end. To judge from the amount of undisturbed trefoil we were finding tucked away on gentle slopes and in folds and hollows, this gigantic spore heap must, we believe, have once hosted the largest colony of Dingy Skippers in all Yorkshire's spore heaps. The colliery lies just within the boundaries of West Yorkshire, and for sure the butterfly does not appear to have moved much beyond Woolley into West Yorks. Nonetheless, even in 2004, we reckoned at the height of the emergence there were about 3,000 plus Dingy Skippers on the wing here. That year, alas, marked a peak in numbers, and thereafter the butterfly began to decline very drastically, though it still may be possible to find isolated pockets of Dingy Skippers in some of the out-of-the-way fold where the butterfly is, just to say, clinging on. There is in particular one spoil escarpment that lies at the far side of Woolley Edge Lane, a busy road that skirts the top of the largely 19th and 20th century pit heap. On our reckoning, this was centuries old and formed part of the colliery's early workings. Despite its elevated position, with a magnificent view across the Grimethorpe and beyond, there was enough tree cover to provide shelter from the wind for a colony of Dingy Skippers. Moreover, there was plenty of bird's foot trefoil about, which would merely strengthen our argument the butterfly had been on these spore heaps for over a millennia, possibly going back to Roman times. We are still back in 2004. The Bluebell Road bus stop. And an old coal authority sign. Shale piled upon shale, forming strange, man-made geological features, as if not of this earth, and definitely from another planet, which nobody in their right mind would ever want to see rolled flat and made ready for the next unspeakably boring Legoland house. And then the patches of trefoil, and sudden lines of birch-carr woodland, the larval flows of 300-million-year-old spoil traversed by rivulets of water, all adding to the fascinating topography. It is ugly to developers and business people, to politicians and landscape architects, to Philistines with a warped love of money, but not to us, nor the butterflies of industrial dereliction. And when we espied a sewing machine stuck up a tree, we knew that beautician of non-conforming ugliness, Lautréamont, would also find it remarkable. When we first discovered Woolley, a large section of the spoil heap had either been recently planted with trees, covered with soil and then farmed, or turned into open cast, the terrain flattened to attract developers, or used as a landfill site. At that time there were 2 longish barrows of incinerated plasterboard, giving an unpleasant odour of ash and burnt gypsum. The reclaimed area was so extensive, and barren of all vegetation and life, it could have supported not only a sprawling housing estate, but a small out-of-town shopping centre as well. However, the new development was to be a cut above that vulgar conception. This is Woolley, 2 years on in 2006, and way in the distance is the new estate. This is no tacky Barrett's housing experience for the lower orders, and has been named Woolley Grange, the large stone gateway that bears the inscription like the entrance to a landed estate. This new estate has an outlook over the surrounding countryside toward Denby Dale and the Derbyshire hills no other colliery spoil heap in all of Yorkshire can match, and shortly there will be nothing to remind anyone this was formerly a huge pit spoil heap, and Arthur Scargill, General Secretary of National Union of Mine Workers, once worked here. The estate has been modelled to fit in with the outlying Woolley village that gives off an aristocratic air, though more improving 18th century landlord than old-style aristocracy, more built on financial risk taken in the East India Company than being in receipt of hereditary wealth, more cock robbing, i.e. the PM and speculator Robert Pillage Walpole, than Gothic novelist and namesake Horace Walpole. The new estate is deliberately neo-Georgian in character and has snob appeal written all over it. Mercs slide through the new imposing sandstone portals down the now horticulturally manicured, gently sloping incline, rather than the former 1 in 3 gradient that lorry drivers on their way to the colliery went in dread of, especially when the road was a sheet of ice. To the side of the new estate there is the old red-bricked terraced pit village that housed the people left behind by the value-added new economy. They are hostile to the newcomers, and very basic graffiti leaves one in no doubt of that. And though what's left of the old spoil heap gets smaller each day, whilst it is still possible to see the black-on-black mounds of shale and slurry, they at least have something outside their doors they can recognise and feel at ease with in the old landscape of old discarded lives. Now, nearby Barnsley hasn't just got an image problem like other former industrial towns in the north. It has been eaten away by a plague it will do anything to kill off once and for all. Barnsley has had to live with the knowledge that the closure of a little pit, Corton Wood, not far from the city centre, sparked off the great miners' strike of 1984-85. It no longer wants to be reminded of this, and will go to any length to be rid of that damaging memory. It is now prepared to spend vast sums of money to refashion the town in the likeness of a Tuscan hill town, which is as different as can be from its infamous mining past, as how the new hip authorities are inclined to view it. This was the idea that the so-called visionary architect, Will Alsop, who joined the regeneration team in 2002, came up with. Alsop is also renowned, just like his much older colleagues in the long dead and gone Archigram project, for dreaming up autocratic schemes on paper, and his plan for Barnsley is not a piecemeal rejigging, but a remaking from scratch, an approach which accords with the town's council's longing to bury the past. Alsop's plan marks a further step towards the integration of avant-garde art into everyday life, like his scheme to ring the town with searchlights that will shine an eaves climb blue at night. In fact, the plan has been rather successfully satirised by a local hand poet by the name of Ian Macmillan, who could almost be an anagram of William McGonagall. Barnsley is a Tuscan hill village, there is no doubt about it. Barnsley is a Tuscan hill village. The red roofs of the simple houses glow like tomatoes in Barnsley market, in the impossible beautiful light of the gala bingo by the bus station. Barnsley is a Tuscan hill village, Barnsley is. Just opposite the former Woolley Colliery spoil heap, on the far side of the M1, there is a highly successful business park. Formerly one of the units, now called Premdor, a furniture factory, belonged to Spring Ram. This company manufactured a range of bathroom suites, which a few years back attracted the notice of The Economist magazine as an example of how the North's industrial base could be remade. Had there already been a modern housing estate on Woolley Colliery, it would have made business sense to locate its showrooms here, just across the way from the factory. As the proxy of decorative sanitary ware progressively replaces essential hygiene, Spring Ram's stylish tat could well have been all the rage. We can say, at the present time, a large flourishing population of Dingy Skippers resides at the base of this enormous spoil heap, probably still numbering hundreds at the height of the emergence. It runs parallel to the M1, a mere 1,000 yards away, and the railway line from Sheffield to Leeds. Going from a row of industrial cottages, Haig Mews, it extends around the perimeter of several ponds into which flood waters from the pit are still pumped, and terminates where the railway line passes through a thickly wooded cutting just before Darton Station. The latter area is classic industrial habitat, almost to the point of caricature, and we have yet to take a photograph of the dingy here that sums up the spirit of the place. There is a fenced-off area containing an industrial waterfall caked with iron oxides, a graffiti-covered brick outhouse, wartime hockey stick posts of crumbling concrete with the rusting steel reinforcing showing through, storm drains, ballast on which wisps of desiccated grass, shrubs and goat willow and trefoil were growing. Every now and then a train passes, sometimes within inches of a resting Dingy Skipper. Here we take a closer look at the industrial fountain that still pumps contaminated water out of the closed-off galleries far below the former Woolley pit. Every so often it stops, then starts up again after a few hours of inactivity and silence. There is no nuanced resonance, no sound of dippers to be singled out. In fact, no natural music at all in the sound of this industrial waterfall, just a dull, unwavering roar, like that of a water main turned on full blast. Yet it is a mesmerising object in its own right, and we would hate to see it go. And so would sculptor Anthony Gormless Gormley, who is rightly fascinated with the North's heavy industry and leftovers. He would only ever get rid of it on the condition that he was commissioned to replace it with one of his own wretched bits of metal tomfoolery costing millions of pounds. A Gormley-inspired artistic rebaptism would instantly kill off the site's beauty, made all the more potent because dingy skippers still fly all around the new steel fencing that has recently been erected in place of the old mesh fencing that had been cut in places and provided an almost unimpeded view of the water pump. We know we could never hope to reproduce the industrial water chute's magic, and would never contemplate doing so, not even for all the readies in Gormley's bank account. However, the fountain still serves a useful purpose, and without it the mine's workings below would flood, and the spoil substrata beneath the housing estate would become waterlogged, causing subsidence and heavy metal contamination. The pit ponds are located on both sides of the rail track, connected by a tunnel that goes under the Barnsley-Wakefield railway line. One of the pit ponds, before 2006, had even been turned into a fish pond, which anglers frequently used before it too was judged a danger and fenced off. This new enclosure had to be at the behest of the Health and Safety Executive, now mindful that the children of this top-drawer executive estate could venture out of doors and, in the absence of parental supervision, start to play around these ponds, just like miners' children once did. So far, we cannot say if the Dingy Skipper is to be found in this area between the railway line and the M1 motorway, but very likely it will be here, as there is enough bare earth and trefoil. In fact, the path traversing the pit heap, on which the Dingy Skippers are to be seen, is part of the old Dearne Valley Way series of footpaths. One of them, as it climbs up from Haig Mews, formerly a row of miners' cottages, to Woolley End Lane at the top of the spore heap, not only becomes impassable, but even by 2005 had actually been fenced off with barbed wire. We found this infringement of ancient rights maddening and utterly cavalier. It is almost always possible to climb over a wooden fence, but barbed wire is another matter. And to cap it all, there was a cast iron signpost dating from the 19th century pointing the way. And an Ordnance Survey map clearly showed there were several paths through the dense woodland fringing Woolley Edge Lane, but we were unable to locate them because, unsurprisingly, they have become overgrown through lack of use. Thwarted on every side, this was modern enclosure in practice, and very much the shape of things to come. Nowhere is this more true than in the grounds of the former Woolley Colliery, the newfangled aristocratic pretence ruling out its use by commoners. By 2005, repressive measures were set to increase, and we were astonished to find that come 2006 there had been an attempt to completely block off access to the old Dearne Way. Barbed wire had been thrown across the pathway, though it seems some rambler or local inhabitant had rightly got very upset about it and pulled a couple of posts up, tossing them to one side.
Yes. Trying to stop. What is it?
What's going down?
It's totally enclosed because of the pond.
If it were up to Luke Devine, he'd have bought all these houses out, knocked them down and built like that. That's what he told us.
But that's
These are 100-year-old houses.
But that's what they did at Frickley.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a total insult to the miners. They burnt all the houses out.
Yep. Well, they said to us, we asked, what's that white TARDIS doing there? Because it looks like a TARDIS.
Yeah, yeah.
They never consulted us, no nothing.
Yeah.
They just put it up and they've told us it's permanent fixture, it's staying.
Yeah.
Now, to me, it's not fair.
It's not fair.
It's not on.
Yeah.
You should consult people who live here. It's just what's dealing with crap every day.
Yeah.
Everything.
I know,
Rubbish
I
everywhere.
I agree. I could tell the tension. As soon as those things started going up, you could feel it.
You know, if you'd have come 6 weeks ago before we had this rain and growth, you'd not that feel it's just full of plastic. Just full of crap blown over from over there. It's shocking, absolutely shocking. But we can't know about it. I've wrote to managers, I've been over on my own.
It doesn't make any difference.
I've been to everyone when I'm up there, and I've asked them, will you get a team of lads, if it's builders, whatever, when it's a rainy day, get your builders and just come out with plastic bags and tidy crap up, then we'll be satisfied. We ain't do work for us.
No, it's totally insult.
Absolutely disgusting. I'll
Yeah.
it anyway.
Well, it was nice talking to you.
Well done, see you later.
We conclude this section with a long 3-minute sequence of a resting Dingy Skipper. In the last minute of the film, note how once the sun begins to come out, the skipper's wings start to move involuntarily, the butterfly eventually taking off.
Yeah, there. I'm photographing one now. I'm photographing one now. I want to see how long it stays in that spot. It's got a chunk out of its wings too. See, when the sun gets very bright, it draws its wings back. The car woodland's increasing here, isn't it? Yeah. It's going to get shaded out, you know. There, it's gone.